And there we are. We are live. And no, guys, you are not seeing things. This is not, this is not AI. This is not CGI. All right. This is the actual Josh has returned.
The return.
I told him people have been asking how he's been, and then right when they finally quit, he reappears. But how you doing, Josh?
Doing well, doing well. I think you highlighted on your social media today. The snow has finally relented a little bit around here. It's been really rough around here. I got two young boys that stay sick this time of year. This time of year is particularly rough. And then the ice and the snow has definitely packed us in. So
yeah, I went for a walk today, and it was like 41 to 42 degrees, and I thought it was like a freaking spring day.
Yeah, it definitely feels way warmer today.
Yeah, and I know what it feels like. I put this on Facebook too, but like January was a rough year. We finally made it to February. That's why it feels like you've been gone so long, Josh. January was a long year for some people. So January 2025 for you people in the future was pure hell. But so Josh, what I don't know, what are we looking at? You said you wanted to do a little haul.
So like I said, it's been probably, I guess, November since you and I have been doing a string together. I would say at least that long.
Yeah.
So we've got a local
been trapped in our igloos.
Exactly.
But we're going to talk hauls, new reading, and then we're going to talk about the comic book industry with Diamond, how it's like apocalyptic now, right? You feel like it?
Yeah.
And then Josh, you want to talk about Sticky Goose? You brought him up.
We might get into that.
Right. Yeah.
It is for comic YouTube. It is it's a happening time right now. So.
All right, man. All right, we've got people watching some comments, so we'll get to those later, guys. Comment all you want. Thumb it up, thumbs up. Say that you like us. Subscribe if you haven't, and all that good stuff. Y'all know the thing. And start us off, Josh. Today's Josh show. Right. Yeah.
So, I think as a newer collector, I think I'm hitting the stage of collecting where I'm like trying to find my alleys, like my, fine tune what I'm really interested in. So I was tickled to death when I hit a local shop and I was able to grab a bunch of Conan the Barbarian runs. And they're not like low issue number. I think I start with 52 here. And I'll just roll through these. Just show you, I got a pretty good deal on about 6 or 7 books.
Yeah, but give some numbers there. What number?
This will be issue 53. So the first one's 52. I got 53.
We're still in the 70s when it was the best. Yeah.
And 54. I really dig the cover art. I have not got a chance to dig through these yet, but I'm pretty excited. This is going to be issue 55. They're in surprisingly good condition for me. I usually don't have good luck finding books in pretty good shape.
Okay, that's a great one. Yeah, that's
57.
A nice one. Yeah, Roy Thomas, I think Buscema years going on. There might be a Neil Adams stuck in there. I'm not sure.
So then number 60, issue 60.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, Conan's just such a staple in comics. It blows my mind. Like, channel. I've been wanting to attempt to do another comic live show with a couple people who actually bring out their favorite Conan stuff. That stuff
63.
In the 70s.
65. Also had some, I didn't throw it in here, but there was quite a bit of the newer Conan stuff. It was before the Titan books. So I grabbed up a couple of those. I've read through some of those. So really, that's definitely right up my alley for what I've been enjoying. I had a buddy I did some work for, and he actually hooked me up with this cover.
Is that a Dave Stevens Sheena cover? Younger girl cover.
So I definitely, like picking that book up. I think when I looked on eBay, I think they're going for this stuff is really high right now. So
bring that back up and give everybody a nice shot. There are Dave Stevens fans everywhere. And I don't understand why all his stuff all of a sudden has been popping over the last year or two. I don't know if it was because people discovered the documentary or what was going on, but thanks to Betty Page and the Rocketeer, people have known who he was. At least they were in Deep Comics. That is beautiful. Yeah.
It's in really good shape too. I mean, I'm not like a a grade snob, like, but for me, I like it to present well is really all I care about. So that's it on the like older front of what I've got. But I've got more stuff that I'm reading currently. But I just grabbed a couple highlights
Yeah.
of some of the stuff that. So this is not going to be probably recognizable because I got in on this bandwagon late. But this is the Mark Spears monster book. It's
Okay.
the third printing. So I don't have like one of the really really nice covers. Let me get into
I
that.
okay. I had to do it. Not so much of budgetary issues, but I'm doing the thing where like I'm getting rid of books, so I don't need to be bringing a ton in. But he's to so far with me, his homage covers. I almost got all three of the Marvel anniversary covers where he had the border around with the monsters and it was the witch Frankenstein and stuff. But I did order the Killing Joke one that's coming out. I don't know a thing
Yeah.
about that series except the homage covers.
Well, and I just looked at like some of the retail variants that he had. I don't know how well they're going to pick up here, but
Yeah.
some of his covers are just, awesome. And
Well,
I am a cover sucker. I am not afraid to float that out there that I am weak when it comes to variants and stuff like that. That
Well,
is
just based on the theme of monsters and stuff, I would love to see Dan Barrington, who does the Nocturnals and all the Halloween stuff and everything, and who is it? Mark Spears, the name. I would love to see
yeah.
those two guys kind of do something together. They got their stuff going on.
And I
So,
know that you're not into the speculation as much, but his stuff is really skyrocketing right now. So if
oh,
you've got his stuff, it's paying off. Like even some of his like very early work is like really popping off. People really seem to resonate with that style.
well, what sounds cool about that, like I can dig what he's doing because basically it's a comic. I know it's about it looks like it's Universal monsters and things, but it's a comic that's popping, not a TV show. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Not
It doesn't
not
have that artificial. Well,
yeah,
I say art. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not
Marvel trailer.
speculative off of something else. So
It's
and
not a
that's what
bunch. Yeah,
we can kind of talk about. I don't, I follow the market pretty well, just not because I don't flip books or anything like that, but it's just interesting to watch patterns.
yeah,
And the Marvel movies definitely were like a huge boom for the industry, and they've kind of like died off. So what's been interesting is watching what's filled that void. So I
yeah,
think that you have the stuff like Mark Spears, you have some of these older covers that have really taken off. But I don't know if you're familiar. There's a new game called Marvel Rivals.
yeah.
It's a free to play game that is really, really driving sales based off of the skins that people are doing. I think Peach Momoko's got one
Yeah.
cover. It's like a skin in the game. So like it's very interesting to watch something that's resonated. There's so many people playing that game, and like it's a free to play game. Kind of killed Overwatch. So some of the traditional gaming's being taken over by this, but it's also influencing the comic market to a degree.
See, I'm really wanting to play that because my wife got her son an emulator with 3,000 games. I've got one with 20,000 already
Yeah.
that I don't really pull out. But this one's simple. It just plugs into the back of the television. And I ended up playing a little bit of Ghosts and Goblins and few things like
Okay.
that. And I'm like, I really need to play something in the present. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm still, going for that stuff. So we got John out here. Say hello, John. Say hello, say hello to. Wait a minute. John is saying hello to Paolo. You say hello to everybody, Josh.
He said hi to me first. He did. He did.
Paolo's here. What's up? Comic Collector has popped up. Great to see you, brother. Here we go, Paolo. Speaking of Conan, I'm halfway through watching the interview with Jeff Ursherwood, one of my favorite art. Jeff Ursherwood, Tom Rainey, Tom Grummett. There's a few artists to me who I think they're in a little bubble in my head because they're fantastic and it feels like they never popped despite they were on some of the bigger books and stuff. Jeff Ursherwood's one of those on Gary B's channel. I need to remember this comment to look that up. I never read Conan, but I'm currently reading through Warlord. Oh, yeah. If you like Warlord, you're definitely going to like Conan. This is one of my favorite. I've read this around since I was 10 years old because of the cover. Warlord was the #1 selling book at DC until the new Teen Titans came. So that's fantastic. All right. Oh, we got here. We got there's a great sci-fi barbarian in European comics, Storm by Don Lawrence. Unfortunately, little known in the U.S. See, thanks to Mo, I've had this talk before, man. There's so much stuff going on over in Europe and over the decades that we haven't seen, that if they didn't come through heavy metal, a lot of people have never heard of them. And that was like 40 some years ago, Mobius and all those guys that came over. All right. So I got just a few little things here to show, but I bought these. I have most of these. I think I have all four of these actually, but they were upgrades. But there's somebody that there's people around here. It's a mother and a son, and they're up in years, that I have gone to the malls and little flea markets around here and gotten comics off of them. They always give me great deals because I've done this for years. I didn't see him for a couple months, ran into him. The son got hit with Bell's palsy. He's half his face is paralyzed. And they finally sit up again. And his mom has had cancer. He had to leave the table to give her a feeding tube and told me a few things. So I was like, I can at least find a couple bucks worth of stuff. So anyway, going back in the day, this is a fantastic story. Archer and Armstrong #3 back in the Jim Shooter days of Valiant. I love this cover because they are actually in the tunnels under the Vatican. And as they're escaping from the Vatican, they go through the Pope's bedroom, who's taking a nap. Like I got two today, and I think you said you took one also.
Yeah.
But old Armstrong there is immortal, and it turns out there's been religious sects, SECTS, chasing him because they think he's a demon because he's immortal. So he got transported right into the Vatican, right in the bee. This is like getting thrown into a bee's nest for him, if I remember right. Stormwatch #49, the second to last issue before Warren Ellis gave us volume 2, 1 through 9. It was around this time that Warren Ellis went to the offices of Image and found out that the sales were pretty low on this. And he asked those guys, Wildstorm, it's through Image, but it was Wildstorm. He said, why did you guys keep this book going? And they said, we wanted to see how it ended. So it was because of their loyalty that he said, wow, well, I'm going to give them something that'll actually sell. And that's how we got the Authority. He started building up for the Authority. And then this is one of my favorite books, but it was coming out like an issue a year. But this is through Continuity Comics. This is Armor. I found this in a grocery store, and this one has a UPC symbol on it. But I've already got most of these, at least 9 issues of it. But basically, this book is hilarious. It's so cheesy. It came out in 1985. The people who were drawing it and Neil Adams, the way they're drawing it, feels like it's 1967. With their style. Two brothers get kidnapped, and for some reason he gets trained in a sci-fi martial arts. He gets a ruby eye put in his face, in his head, because he loses an eye. And every piece of that costume can turn into a weapon. He can build it. It's actually just black mesh, like it's just a black bodysuit. So all the pieces of metal are magnetically held on there. And it's funny. It's so good. And then I got a murder mystery story of Legion of Superheroes with a Steve Lytle cover, Tales of the Legion of Superheroes. That's it for now. But that's what I bought because I was like, dear God, these people are having a hard time. I'm going to something. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that's good reading, but I already had it, man. Right. You got anything else to show? Because I got
I got a half a stack left. So as you know, talking before, the new EC stuff kind of falling off a little bit of the main line, but I wanted to get the last Greg Smallwood cover. One of my favorite artists going right now. Cruel Universe. I think this was the final one of that one.
Nice.
So I just really like his art style, how he does stuff.
So you said falling off. Are you talking about the quality of the book, or you're just losing interest?
Well, the main line definitely, I think, has kind of slowed down a little bit, but the spinoffs, like the side series, so jumping right over to this one came out, I think, and remember, like, my stuff's a little behind because I do go through my comic shop currently.
Right.
So I get everything later, but this one is like a good mix of like kind of fantasy and sci-fi blend. Definitely kind of like renewed my interest. So I'm pretty heavy on this book right now. But yeah, the Epitaphs from the Abyss, I felt like it was good. But as far as like my horror anthology book right now, I think Hello Darkness is probably a better book currently running. That's where I would push people if you were to like twist my arm and ask what which way to go. I think this is actually from the last time we were together, Tim. A couple of these things that I have picked up. I was unaware, until we went to Empire Comics, that J. Scott Campbell did art for magazines. So
Yeah, he got
PlayStation
out.
magazine.
Yeah, those guys, a lot of those guys, Roger Cruz and stuff, they went on to animation and designing video games. Yeah.
So like, it's no secret. I think we've talked, I really, really dig video games. So seeing those two mediums kind of mesh has been enjoyable to say the least. This is a newer pickup just because I had not picked up like one of the ongoing Dread
There we go.
magazines. So excited to tear into this. I don't know why, but when I ordered it through my comic shop, I feel like this is like from middle of last year is when this would have came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it until I think maybe the beginning of January. Yeah, so this is September. So there's that much of a delay for my comic shop on that.
Yeah. There's so much Judge Dredd stuff out there. It blows my mind how the quality goes up and down, up and down. Yeah. And I mean, just when you count it out, they come out with something that's awesome. So that's, yeah.
And then I'll just kind of blow through this a little bit. So I've got, it's an old Dragon magazine.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's like an anniversary issue. So like, obviously I know there's a lot of consternation in that community right now about the new manual that came out. Seems like a lot of people aren't happy, but I really like this older stuff. Like it's just the art's very good on it, and we picked that up at Empire Comics. I think it was maybe like $5 or something like that, which is a no-brainer.
Oh God, it's been so long. Like I said, I played from 85 to 90. And when you consider that I was 13 to 17 playing that, 18, that's the psychological time is different. That feels like I was playing for like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And Dragon Magazine was such a joy to find when you could find it. It wasn't everywhere. And I remember trying to talk my DM to like, I've got these stats how to use a gun. There was a Dragon Magazine that came out to where you had military issue weapons in it. And I was like, I want my dirty, hairy gun. He was like, no. And I went, there it is. I mean, it was a thing. You know what I mean? I was like, no, here it is.
I'm gonna eye on this hill. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I had this whole thing to where it wasn't called a gun. I gave it like some fantasy name, you know what I mean? Like Boomstick or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was like, I had this whole thing to what was going on. And yeah, Dragon Magazine is one of those things there's certain things that actually take me back to the 80s, and Dragon Magazine is one of them, so fantastic, man.
Then I just got just a couple more and I'll be done. We'll go through these. Again, these are just pickups from Empire Comics. For whatever reason, he had a whole bunch of old anime and manga magazines, so I snagged those.
Alchemist, was that the Alchemist on the cover? It kind of looked like
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah.
And just blow through this one, obviously Dragon Ball Z. So he had really good prices on these, so I grabbed these. And then the last book, I think we talked about Bud's Arts books last time I was here. I was able to pick up, it's like a Pulp Master. So it's a lot of information. I'm currently digging through this, but I'm really into like a lot of the old pulp stuff currently. I feel like it's like undervalued, and some of the artwork back then was just so good. And there's so little of it left. I feel like that's a great place to be looking if you're looking to grab some stuff that I think it's undervalued currently.
Nice.
But that's probably it for my hauls.
All right. I got two things I got off of eBay, and I have no idea if I showed them real quick and stuff. But this kind of ends what I wanted to from George Perez. I've got issue 1 through 20 in the annual and stuff. But I think this one, this has the annual where this has the issues like 20 to 25 or something. This is volume 4 called Destiny Call. But I found this for like $1.20, I think 99 cents for this. And then $1.29 for an essential volume I showed for here off eBay. So I'm going to say no. But, this is like the 80s. George Perez started out the book with Lynn Wein, and they did this fantastic reboot of Wonder Woman After Crisis. George started writing it. Mark Wolfman told him, you can do it, and all that stuff. And it turned to be really great. And then all of a sudden he started letting Cynthia Martin come on and a few other people come on and do the art. So that's why I'm like this kind of, I have issues 1 through 20 in the annual, and this for 99 cents. I have the rest of the issues I wanted. This is right around the corner from some other great issues and stuff, but this is really all I need and stuff, right? But this has Art Adams, John Bolton, Philip Jose Garcia Lopez, all kinds of people doing the art in this. Brian Bolland, and I think it's for like an annual that came out with those superstar artists, each taking a chapter of a story. I have the annual, but it's like whited out, everything, bad shape, because I've had it since it came out. And then this is the Marvel Saga, right? 25 issues of this. I'm only missing 2. I have all the issues I had when I was buying them in like 7th grade, 6th and 7th grade. But basically, this is all black and white. I forgot these essential volumes are black and white. I think this is 13 through 25 to finish it out. But a lot of people didn't like it. Well, we liked it when it came out as when it came out. But a lot of kids today, that's the only I know that I've seen talk about this. And it's amazing that I've even found them on Facebook and these little groups talking about it. They're all mad because like it's clip art. They actually they retell the origin, they retell the history of the Marvel Universe in chronological order. Not how the comics came out. It didn't start with Fantastic Four #1. It went back to caveman days where we got the Celestials coming to Earth and all that stuff like that. But they pulled images from those comics. They have John Byrne in the first issue because of Alpha Flight and things like that. And this is 13 through 25. So the series ended when Galactus ended up coming to Earth in Fantastic Four 48 through 50 or whatever. So you've got pretty much the 60s retold through Marvel Saga. It's just good reference material, and the way they put it together is really cool. And right in the middle of it, they interrupted the series to tell you the full story of Spider-Man and Mary Jane because they were getting married in the annual that month. So they sacrificed an issue of Marvel Saga to give you Mary Jane in them. I don't know, maybe it's trying to save it. All right. You said you also want to talk about what we were reading. You want me to kind of boot that off here?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I've read the Elementals before, but I've never sat down and read it all the way through. Elementals was a hot book on the alternative comic scene in the 80s, right? And the biggest problem is Bill Willingham couldn't get the book out on a regular schedule. I think that's what killed it, right? So I didn't get my first issue to 88. So over the years, I've gotten quite a big chunk of them. And when Comico or Comico for you people went out of business, there used to be on YouTube actual interviews with the guy that holds the rights to Elementals. And he was pretty much being an ass saying he's never going to let it go. So you won't see these reprinted. So as I'm reading these a little at a time from beginning to end with there's 3 volumes and I've got about 2.5 I just wanted to read the Bill Willingham stuff, right? That's the guy that does Fables and things. He went on to bigger and better things. He comes up with this vampire called Captain Cadaver, and that's him. And this has got to this 2-part story, issue 16 and 17 of volume 1, has got to be one of the greatest vampire stories I've ever read. He unhinges his jaw. You know what I mean? He unhinges his jaw. This was just a human being. And in the very first story, all the evil in the world, you had this guy, doing, Bill Willingham brought in some dark stuff with demons and everything. And the Elementals were actually brought forth. They all had to die first. They're all immortal. And somebody who died by drowning got the power of water. Somebody who died by air, got the power of air. Someone who died by an avalanche got the power of earth, and so on and so forth. So that's where the Elementals came from to fight this evil. Well, they kind of failed on their mission. The dude that was trying to bring the great evil to the earth and brought up all these demons and stuff, they defeated him, but all the bad, dark energy from those demons and stuff escaped into the earth. And that energy created this guy who's just sitting there watching TV or something, turned him into this vampire. And it turns out there's a dark circle of vampires out there that get mad because they end up killing Captain Cadaver at some point. So this is just like laying the foundation. But I'm reading this and I'm like, this book should not be this good. You know what I mean? I'm like, it looks ridiculous. And you're reading it and his jaw unhinges and he rips people's throats out when he eats them. And they got it's just really good stuff. I was really surprised. So I'm reading a little time. Yeah.
When did that come out? Just curious, like what time?
87, I think. Let me look here. It was so sporadic. Yeah, 1987. But it is such good stuff, man. It cracks me up. Yeah, Captain Cadaver. He messes with him, and it's got all the tropes of a vampire. He turns to dust and all this stuff like that. He's got all those old school powers of being a vampire. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's called Captain Cadaver. I'm going to laugh if I'm wrong. I'll throw these two out, and I'll take a break here. I've got a lot of stuff I'm reading off and on. I'm going back, and for some reason, this is a one-shot by Mike Allred that came out, Batman, Legion of Superheroes, 60 style. It's Batman 66. But I've got a thing where, they're out of order. So, I've got a thing where I'm like, I want to go through my books and find all the times that the Batman and Legion crossed over, because it's not many. And I always thought that was kind of, I never thought anybody did enough with this. That's such a cool concept. They crossed over with Superboy and Superman all the time. But I'm like, there was some stuff there they could have done with Batman. And of course, I always say it, that's my favorite Batman logo. If I could get by with having that tattooed across my back and not look like an idiot, I'd probably do it.
I was going to say, I wonder how your wife feels about that
one. And then, I'm keeping her from getting all tatted up. She's got enough. But anyway, Batman in the Spirit, Darwin Cook. I pulled this out of the box. This is just a fun book. I've been reading a little bit of Spirit that I might get to here in a minute. I got to be in the mood to read the Spirit. Will Eisner. I end up just looking at the art. There's really not a lot of meat there to a lot of the stories, but every now and then he does some cool stuff. So I'll take a break there.
Yeah. Well, I'll just I'll transition a little bit. So I know that
after you do very big. Yeah, after you do yours, we'll look at comments. So everybody keep commenting, man. Stay in there.
So just a couple of the ones obviously you can tell what time of year I'm backlogged on. So currently this was the EC Christmas special, like one shot.
Who did that cover? Does it say? Looks like a Bolland or a Chris Weston.
I am not sure.
Okay, that's cool. Don't worry about it.
So it was a pretty good read, but then again, this is the series I would kind of, if you're looking for a horror anthology book, I think that this is probably one of the better ones going right now. Really enjoyed this. This was kind of like a Christmas.
That cover is so 80s. I wonder if it's on purpose.
Oh yeah,
it looks like a movie poster for Cherry 3000 or some movie like that. Yeah.
So they are one of the companies that do like a ton of different variants for that book. Currently, I think that they've kind of used that character as like their cover character. She's not really in the stories. I guess it's kind of like the Crypt Keeper and stuff for EC, but like this is our central kind of reoccurring person that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the stories. But and then bouncing off, this is another one of the books. And again, still a good read. I just don't know time-wise whether I'm going to keep up with this line.
Yeah.
I really like their Cruel Kingdom. I like the blending of the fantasy and the sci-fi. I think that's probably a little more my speed. Outside of that, as far as what I'm reading, I've talked about on here the Hoopla digital library app.
Uh-huh.
If anyone has a local library that participates in that program, you can get all of the new Conan books coming out, like the Savage Sword, that people are, that new Conan Titan book series is on there. Stuff like Gun Honey is currently put up there all the time. You can read a lot of new modern comic books. So I've been doing a lot of that just because it's like, why not? It's free. If it's something I particularly like, sometimes I try to grab the collected editions to help support those guys. But that's kind of where my reading has been. Outside of that, I'm just going to reference this quickly because I know that this is probably not the crowd for this. But currently, probably the biggest manga going right now is, and I'm going to mispronounce it. It's Dandadan or Dandadan. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's currently on Netflix and Crunchyroll for the anime, but the manga is you can pay like $3 and read all the Viz and Shonen manga on digitally for like $3 a month. So
just for the people that don't know, tell them who Viz is. VIZ. He said VIZ, guys.
I don't necessarily know who they are, other than that they publish a ton of the manga that's currently
that's it.
being
That's
out
like,
there. I think they're intertwined somehow with Shonen, because you can pay for 2 apps separate, but it seems like they have a lot of crossover. Like, I don't know if like Shonen's like a subsidiary of Viz or how that works, but
I'm actually glad you brought up that, because I forgot to say it. I made it through the entire 6 volumes and the extra book that came in the set. I finally made it all the way through Akira.
Okay.
Akira, and oh my God, it's a masterpiece. I have read all of Cerebus now. I have read all of Akira, and I got to tell you, I know they're 2 completely different things, but I think Akira is the one. I could read sections. I could read Church and State all over with Cerebus. There's stories I could read all over. The little Jaka story, but Akira, I cannot imagine spending almost 10 years to get those 1,000+ pages and follow that book. And I think he took a break for a year, but apparently it came out in a magazine monthly and stuff, a couple pages at a time, and it is a freaking masterpiece. Like, I don't know if I can. My wife has her manga collection upstairs, and I'm getting through 1 or 2 of the stories, and I may be done. I can't see how I've been to the mountain, is what it feels like. It was so good, and the way it ended, you would if I told you how it ended, that very last panel, you would be like, that makes no sense. But I'm like, yes, it does make sense. It has like an existential ending that is perfect. You're so into that world. By the time you make it to the end, it of course that's what happens. Yes, these things go on. We have, if he's still here, we have Dr. Gratu Orloff coming at you from Rural Retreat. Great to see you, Doctor. Hello, saying hello. And then we've got the only thing missing from the Elementals is someone dying of a heart attack that get the power of heart, and summon Captain Planet.
Speaking of which, is Dynamite is doing a Captain Planet. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw something. Yeah, I just kind of chattered. He had
not my cup of tea, but it's out there. So.
They gave him the green beard.
Yeah,
they had they're going grim and gritty with him. That's why I just went on. When I saw Captain Planet with a beard, I'm like, moving on. Because somewhere, somebody, I don't know if it was South Park. No, it was Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty's already done the evil Captain Planet messed up story, man. Oh my God. You got anything else to show people?
No, but if you don't mind, I know this is a little deviation from what we talked about, but it just made me think. So in Japan, you kind of highlighted like how Akira came out monthly, and there'd be a couple chapters, and like that's how they do their manga. So they're like in Shonen Jump, like they might do a couple chapters a month, right? So it's like a fine-tuned compilation of like these ongoing series. Why does American comics never adopted something like that? So instead of having to do like a full volume comic every month, why not do like these shorter story beats, and like DC could have like a collected monthly, hey, you subscribe to this, you can stay up to date pretty well on what
all I have is an opinion, but they have done things like that. Well, they've had anthology series. Marvel did it in the 60s with a couple of their books, but that was because DC, National Periodical, had a contract with distributors, and Marvel's only allowed to put out so many books a month up until the early 70s, and that's when they overtook DC finally, is when that contract ended. And what they did is that's where you had like Strange Tales and Journey into Mystery and stuff. They would have Namor and Iron Man in a book or something. I can't believe I grew up on the stuff in the Stepdad's collection. I can't believe I'm going blank. But yeah, you would have 2 characters, in each book, an anthology series. And then, like you said, they had anthology series like a bunch of sci-fi stuff. This is where they tried to bring back the EC comics kind of sci-fi, like weird science and stuff from the 50s, Time Warp. This is like 79 because of Star Wars. But I kind of think it's a cultural thing. I think everybody got spoiled with sequential art coming out monthly. And you got to, and comic books were invented in America. A lot of people, that blows they want to go back to the Platinum Age before that and talk about a lot of things. But those books, those comic strips from the Sunday Funnies got folded here and shrunk down and sent out in a magazine form. I think it's kind of a cultural thing. I really do. There's a lot. I mean, when you read those stories, it's as different as we read from left to right and they read right to left. It may just be a cultural thing. And, I feel like adult magazines have tried that before here, heavy metal a little bit. They would have certain stories going on, and Epic Illustrated did it. Last Galactus stories, some stuff that came out of it, and Jim Starlin's. Oh my God, I'm going blank today. Oh my God, he had his big sci-fi opera come out of that ended up getting its own book. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
No, so I know, I hear what you're saying about the cultural thing, but isn't 2000 AD their monthly or like I think they actually have a weekly publication? Isn't it like their whole cast of characters? Like it might be a 2-page Judge Dredd story, it might be 2-page Strode Dog or whatever's going on.
Yeah, over in England. Yeah,
I just wonder why. There's no ongoing. And I know heavy metal's coming back. I don't know if you saw that. I saw that was solicited on Kickstarter to begin with. I think now you can actually get in on it at comic shops. Well, you could prior to what our next topic is. I don't know if that still is viable. But I just kind of wonder that, like, do you think a part of it is DC and Marvel don't want to combine all that stuff into a single book because they think it'll pull from their single issue sales? Because to me, it's a lot of stuff's not selling. So, like,
I'm not saying that's not what it is. I hear what you're saying and how it's going, but I think it might be a little bit the other way around. They did Marvel Comics Presents at Marvel, okay? And when that started out, they had Wolverine, their big star, and then they had some other books in there, right? Around the same time, they took Doctor Strange, whose book got canceled, and Cloak and Dagger, who had another series canceled, and they put them together. So it's been experimented on, but I think what they're looking for is the other way around. You get a bunch of characters in there through those books, and if one becomes super popular, that could lead to them getting their own title. Mm-hmm. A lot of people forget that Wolverine had a miniseries, and then Wolverine had another miniseries with Kitty Pryde. And when Wolverine got his own ongoing series, like in 88, 87, whatever it was weird. It was very strange to have these characters that were in these books and X-Men and stuff like that, all of a sudden doing solo stuff. It was unpredictable, where you were going, things like that. So I think that kind of plays into it. Is you only had so much space on the spinner rack in America. Comic books still it's not like it was, but it's still there. Comic books in America still have a stigma. France, Europe, obviously in Japan. One of the books I read actually had the people who worked on the mangas. They're like rock stars with groupies and stuff. The way that it came off, it felt real. It's much more respected as an art form in other places, is how I view it, as being somebody here in America looking out there in the world. I mean, dear God, look at Mobius. Mobius was so influential. Even Studio Ghibli got inspired by him, with Nausicaa and stuff like that. Let me see what Paolo says. He's our European correspondent. The only thing, let me get this here. Josh, let me lead you down the rabbit hole of French pre-publication of comic albums. 2 pages a week, and end of the year, they have a graphic novel. So that actually kind of goes with a little bit what I'm saying. If I was to speculate, I think some people may have tried and they just didn't make money. That's why I think it's a cultural thing. Yeah. I think they were like, that's not enough. I mean, I didn't stick with Marvel Comics Presents past that first 12 issues, let's say, and that came out weekly. But I did stick with DC 52 all the way through because I knew it was going to end at 52. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I think it would work if they knew the beginning, middle, and an end, and the strength of the characters and who's writing it. 52 had your hottest writers at the time: Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, blah blah blah. Two other guys were on there. And those were superstar writers, and it didn't exactly blow up sales, but it sold consistently. They had too much.
And I don't think, like, what obviously we're going to get into the next thing. I just think that you know, a lot of stuff in the comic industry is like very well. We've always done it that way. This is the way we're doing it. And I wasn't as aware as some of the stuff that you're saying. I guess my thought process is, you know, you're trying to appeal to a newer generation or a newer demographic if you want to keep this alive ultimately.
Oh yeah.
And I just feel like something where, you know, in the attention span of the TikTok generation, if you will, you know, if we have a, you know, 30-page monthly book where we combine kind of our big story hits, and if you like really enjoy this, you spin off and go and, you know, digest a bigger version of this. I don't know. I just feel like they could there's something there, but it would, like you said, the issue would be, and this seems to be a big problem at Marvel and DC currently, is you'd have to have like a unified plan where, you know, this is the beginning, the middle, the end. Like, what is our goal here? And I don't know that you have that necessarily currently with the way things are constructed. It feels like, at least from the outside, that a lot of these companies are just treading water, and in a lot of ways, not even doing that well. So
yeah, I'm gonna try to maintain my rage because I feel like the guy that's been yelling for 10 years, what the fuck are you doing? You know, I still remember when I read The Punisher by Rick Remender back in 2013 or 14, and right on the cover they had the Punisher on top of a bunch of villains he shouldn't have. It was a pile of villains, a literal pile of knocked out villains, and he had Tiger Shark with a chain around his throat like he was choking him. And I'm like, Tiger Shark can withstand the ocean depths. You know, that's he's his. You couldn't even choke him because of his neck muscles. What are you doing? So you had characters like Squirrel Girl coming up, beating Doctor Doom, the Punisher. Then when you don't respect the characters, nobody's going to respect them when they read the books. That's where it really all started, I think. So fuck Squirrel Girl. But anyway, I'm not going to go on my rant here. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you kind of nailed it. You come at it with fresh eyes, and you got all this stuff, history behind you and stuff, and you can actually, like I said, you get to look at it with like, I think it's a strength that you weren't there, if that makes any sense. You can see the patterns. You don't have a bias, and like I said, it's kind of like being in a hurricane. You can be at the center of a hurricane and everything's spinning around you. You're over there in another field and you see the hurricane going by. You can see everything. You can see the cows flying out of it. And that one house, you know, you can see it better, you know. So, yeah. So
and I think it kind of leads to where we're, you know, it looks like we're caught up on comments. It kind of leads to where we're talking, you know, the big thing in the comic industry right now is, of course, Diamond announcing bankruptcy and current state, and like kind of the ripple effects through the industry. Okay. And I don't think we're through seeing the fallout. You know, me and you were talking about it before the show. It seems like every day there's another company coming, you know, out, whether it's publicly or behind the scenes.
What comic book publishers have left Diamond Distributors? This is my research now.
After a slate of publishers, beginning during the pandemic, left their exclusivity agreements with the company. Boom! Studios most recently cut their.
Anyway, I just think it's funny that my AI voice now has reverb, like she's on a speaker in a parking lot. So anyway, people don't know, Diamond Distributors have filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy, right? Over the years, you've had people like Marvel do their own distributing. They've tried it. They tried it, I think, in the 90s and the 2000s. And I think even DC. And a lot of people have tried to get away from them over the years, right? And they're so strong and stuff like that. It seems like, I swear, I remember hearing about a meeting between Mike Richardson of Dark Horse and some other publishers being like, come on, guys, you got to stick with Diamond. They made it sound like the Illuminati of comics that all met together, like a mob, you know, like the mob bosses all meeting together or something like that, you know, to, you know, keep Diamond going and stuff because they're so important. But at the same time, I've heard it from D&J Comic Shop. You can go on my older videos. I have tales of the D&J Hobby Shop out of Galax, Virginia, where I'm standing in there with the people, you know, around there, and we're talking comics and stuff like that. But for at least 20 years, I've heard horrible stories about Diamond's customer service, how they might ship you stuff, they might not. Daryl from D&J Comics had the worst stories I ever heard. Like, he's actually opened up boxes of stuff he never ordered. They made him pay for it. And not only had they packed the books horribly, they took comic books and scrunched them up and used that as the packaging to hold them together. And they were always, and I've started hearing these stories over the years how they were just shitty to begin with, which is why some people absolutely hate them. All the way up into Atomic Comics in Johnson City closing down 3 or 4 years ago. I heard him being mad at Marvel because they had their own distributing. They had to do separate from Diamond and stuff. It's been a mess. So out of the blue, Diamond, I'm a back issue collector. You actually are. You probably know more about the current state than I do, but I'm a back issue collector. It's not going to affect me that much. But now we have all these people on Facebook, Tomorrow's Publishing and Arctic through Ben Dunn, Ben / and then second name Dunn. He's apparently the guy who is the founder and owner of an Antarctic Press, Tomorrow's Publishing, Boom Studios, Image, Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse. They're out. They're leaving. They're leaving, and they're not going to use that distributor of Diamond Distributors. But what I didn't know, Josh, when we had our little text about it and stuff, is that I didn't know that Diamond owed millions of dollars to these companies.
Yeah,
that's detrimental when there's a debt. The market's been shrinking. It has not been a pretty 10 years. No matter, I don't care what anybody says. Comics used to sell 100,000, books a month to stores and grocery stores and things like that. Jim Shooter would cancel a series that fell under 100,000 books. And there for a while, around 2015, 16, 17, 18, they thought if a book sold 18,000 copies, it was a hit. I stood in a Iron Maiden concert in Charlotte with my buddy Scott and took in when they announced there was 18,000 people who were watching this concert. And I'm like, nationwide, just in America, the people reading comics are in this building. And I thought that was like they're in trouble. So I'll shut up now. That's the setup. Yeah.
No, I think that's a huge point is, these companies are already hurting for money, and capital spent or capital, that they're not going to get, essentially at this point. And how does that not only impact their bottom line now, but also what do they have available to put towards future projects? So it's that's what I think the ripple is not just like what currently. I think it's a lot worse than what people realize. And we talked about it before the show. I watch a YouTube channel, the Comic Book Palace or Comic Palace, and he's up north somewhere. His name's Glenn. It's a great weekly. If you want to keep up with the books that are coming out weekly, what I do is I'll throw it on, listen to it when I'm walking or something like that.
From his comic shop, that guy.
Yeah, he actually runs a comic business, and he usually drops the video. I want to say it's either Monday or Tuesday nights. Or it's supposed to be like before the books are available, I guess, to like let people know, like, hey, this is what we got. And this week especially, but it's happened several weeks where he's just like, look, we're not getting our books. Like, we're lucky if we get them the day that we're supposed to put them out. Like, there's no way we know what's coming. And that's with not only with Diamond, but that's with Lunar as well. So like my concern is, these companies that are switching to Lunar, and this is very, what's the word where it's like, this is anecdotal. I'm going from like this one store, but I've not heard anything. I've heard good things and bad things about Lunar. So now we're looking at Lunar expanding their business. What are they really capable of handling that expansion at a moment's notice?
Yeah, let's slow down a little bit. Yeah, Lunar is the alternative distributor, right? And it seems like just the other day, and take this with a grain of salt, I'm going to say allegedly because I cannot remember which company it was, but either through Bleeding Cool or CBR or something, somebody came out and said, Lunar's already fucked up our shipments. You know what I mean? Like, Lunar isn't going to be able to handle this is what they were saying. Like, I think I don't know if it's a glut of companies wanting to use them all of a sudden. What really bothered me was Tomorrow Publishing that I follow on Facebook. I clicked the link. They said, if you want these books, we're going through Lunar. And then I clicked the link to look at their, whatever it was, their site or whatever they were doing. And it's very confusing. If you want this set of books, they're still offered through Diamond. They're stuck. These books are going to be through Lunar, and then we'll be Lunar through the future. So right now, during this transition, I'm kind of wondering if these books that are still stuck with Diamond, if we're ever going to see them. You know what I mean? There's a lot going on that we're in the unknown here and with what can be handled and stuff. And like I said, for years, I've heard other people, comic book shops, talk about how bad, Diamond has been over the years. So, I mean, who knows? They've already got a rep. I'm more concerned. I'm not so much worried about the publishers. IDW feels like they've been getting ready to go out for years. Who knows when that's going to happen?
Since I've been in the
But
reading.
I'm worried about the pop mama, the comic shops. You know what I mean? With no products coming in, back issues are just going to keep you going so long. You know what I mean? So
And that's kind of what we were talking about is like, I was like, where do you go if you're running a comic book shop? So you're the big distributor, you're not getting the number of titles that, and the stuff you do want's not coming in properly. If you pivot, like a lot of stores have pivoted to other industries. So we kind of mentioned this before the show, and this is, tangentially related, but Pokemon is like booming right now, similar to what comics were 4 years ago. But that's only going to go so far. I hear the same distribution issues over there. I very much sympathize with anyone who has business right now in collectibles in general, whether it be cards, whether it be books, or whatever. I think it's very hard right now.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take this with a grain of salt, but there's something I'm kind of wondering about, and I really wish this had popped in my head. It's popped in my head before. I actually mentioned this to my wife the other night. Probably about 2 weeks ago before this and stuff, right? But Trump started talking about tariffs, and the tariffs have gone through on Canada, and I guess they started, or they start tomorrow. I don't know. Canada, China, Mexico. I am 99% sure that a lot of comic books are published in Canada, and they have to come back down here across the border. So now we have diamond distributors. We have the tariffs. I mean, to me, that sounds like two big obstacles for comics to get here just to get out. First, you got to get them back here with 25% tariffs or whatever. I know he hit 10%. I don't know. I can't remember what they are, but he's hit a pretty staggering, for comics, anything coming over, maple syrup, comic books, Canadian whiskey, whatever. They don't, down south, we have all that. We're not worried about it. So now, you have a tariff for the comics to get back into the country, I guess. Well, not back, but just to get here, and now this distribution problems that are, I don't know, chaotic and unpredictable. That's probably a better word, two better words.
That's such a good point. I hadn't even really thought about it, but obviously that price is going to increase if that is true, whether it's, I know cards for sure, like there's cards that are printed in Japan, there's cards that are printed overseas, like Magic the Gathering prints overseas.
Yeah.
So all these industries are really going to have to deal with that. And I think we all know it's not going to be the companies that deal with that. That's cost that's just going to be pushed over to us if we want to continue. And I think it's hitting at a really bad time for comics in particular, because I think that what you had, and maybe this is just anecdotal again, I came in with the comic boom really in general to this hobby. What I am seeing is it feels like a lot of people are selling their collections. You watch, whether it be random YouTube channels that do sales and stuff like that. A lot of people are just getting out altogether, whether it's because the economy overall is hurting, or whether it's because people see the diminishing returns on this. The money is not there. I think it is pretty much all transitioned over to flipping.
People have always, when they're here for money and greed with this hobby, this is a pattern. Two things always happen. These people run away because they're not getting the money that they thought in comics is not there consistently. That's the better way to put it, right? And then the bubble bursts on the market, and we're worried about comic book shops closing down and companies going out of business. Marvel actually filed Chapter 11 before and survived, things like that. Comic books have been supposedly about to die, as I've heard it so many times since the 70s and stuff, right? So this all ties in with what you're saying. So all these people are getting out of comics and stuff like that. But the thing about it is that that's going to be ironic, because if I was to speculate, and a crystal ball that's cracked and can't see, and it's on, what I'm saying, but what usually happens is back issues go back up. People still want their comics. They still have that need to feel that. I mean, it's addictive. You get into a routine, and that's one of the things that does keep the market coming. Is it's become your routine for some people for years, for me decades. You know what I mean? So they're getting out. They're going to get rid of their stuff right when I think back issues are going to go up, and it's going to be some ridiculous comics that go up.
I think so my opinion, maybe a little different than yours.
Yeah.
I think you were true. I think you were very correct about the books that always had value. So your keys, like your big first appearances, your actual keys, I think you're right. What I think is a lot of people dump money on books that are not necessarily, they were valuable for a period. And I definitely think that's where a lot of the hit of the market is. But there's a lot of books I think are not going to recover.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know. Go ahead. I'm with you.
And I think when we've went to, this is just speaking to me and you again, when we've went to these shows, it feels like more and more the shows are the worst place to get deals. Like, and maybe it's always been that way, and I didn't know that. But to me, it seems like a lot of these dealers bought into books that weren't the big keys. They ate a loss, and they're afraid to just cut that dead money and just get out from under the book.
In our circle, if we drew a 3-hour traveling circle from our center, it's because of YouTube speculation channels like Comic Tom and all that. We actually see it. I can't remember. I know I've made the comment, but almost every show that I've gone to in the last 2 or 3 years, when I see those wall books, I'm like, my collection should buy my house now.
Especially with their pricing at, yeah.
I looked at a few of them, and I've looked at 1 or 2 of them, and I usually say the same thing. I'm like, you made me feel very good about my collection. You know what I mean? Like, thank you, But I've seen books that are worth $3 and $4. People are trying to sell them for 50 to 75. Okay. I've got screenshots that I've shared on our collector forum, that private group we're on Facebook and things like that. I've saved screenshots over the years looking at this stuff. I just shared Amazing Heroes number 49. That's going for, I got screenshots. I put them up. That book's going for, people are selling and buying that book from $100 to $200. Amazing Heroes, an old news magazine from 1983, because it's got a picture in it of Spider-Man in his black costume. And right on the eBay listings, they're saying that's the first appearance, the real first appearance of the black costume. No, it's the 5th. And people are buying that thinking they're getting the first one. That's why people are buying shit, getting out after they're getting burned, because of misinformation, bad speculation channels and stuff. And it's a reality. It's a reality. The market does not work to where you can do a top 10 every week. You know what I mean? You can talk about what people are buying. They've steered more towards that, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. Okay.
Yeah. I think so. I came in with the advent of the comic book YouTubers. So your Comic Tom, your Jim Mint, all these guys. And I definitely think the top 10 comics, as I've learned over the 4 years, those are the books I generally try to stay away from. The books that they say, hey, these are the 10 books everybody's buying. Well, now it's probably not when I want to buy that. Like,
right. I'm going left and right, and I've showed on my channel some keys I have found for nothing because everybody's over here looking for this. Now, I'm going to say, I still think they're grifts and stuff, but this is going to segue for later. We don't have to segue now, but I came around to Comic Tom after I saw how he handled himself with Sticky Goose. He actually, all of a sudden, it was like something clicked in my brain, and I can handle him now. So I ended up checking out some of his channels, and they're finally at a point, and they probably have been. I'm way late to the game because I couldn't stand that little fucker for a while after watching some of the stuff they did a couple years ago. But after seeing how he handled himself with Sticky Goose, the guy was like smooth, man. I was like, all right. You know what I mean? Like, I
think eviscerated is the word I would use. He eviscerated.
Okay. Yeah, but the way when Comic Tom was sitting there saying, Comic Tom stayed cool when he's on somebody else's channel with Sticky Goose there. Sticky Goose, this is old news. I know it's old news. But the guy left his own channel, or his internet went down, and Tom's carried on the show and was like,
selling his own book.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I liked, man. The guy was like, hey, let's go. That was awesome. And all of a sudden I saw a little personality there. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I like. So I went and checked out some more of their videos, more recent videos at the time. And they did have things at the beginning of it, like, don't buy this book. This is what's going on. They weren't doing that before. You know what I mean? They were not doing that before. Now they're saying, slow down before you buy this. That's all you got to do. Just acknowledge it. So, yeah. But the rest of those guys, I haven't seen that with them, nor have I really vigilantly check them out. You know what I mean? I popped in here every now and then, and I'm just shaking my head. And then you got guys on Instagram and Facebook doing claim sales, and I'm like, that's a dollar bin book, and you're selling it for 65, and then they got 30 to 60 people watching their live show, and there's people buying it, and I'm like, oh my god, so. Yeah, let me slow down.
That's a good point. So, and I think the biggest issue for me is a lot of these guys that do the YouTube, they do the whatnot. And I think what you said, transparency is key. Yeah, I think if you tell people like, hey, this is a business to me, ultimately at the end of the day, whether I'm selling, like I'm not a big fan of the monthly comic pack that Tom sells, but I think for people who like that, that's a great deal. To me, if I'm going to spend, I think it's $40 to $50. If I'm going to spend that, I want it to be books I want to read. Yep. I don't like rolling the dice. I can see why that appeals to some people because he does do like some bigger books in there. You get some special variant covers, and I can see why it appeals to some people. It's just not for me. But I think if you disclose that, like, hey, I sell comics. This is what I'm seeing. I would stay away from this book based off of this trend. I like that content a lot more than, oh, this book is selling. You need to buy it now. I've got 10 copies of it online, and I'm not telling you about that.
With a bunch of kids and inexperienced collectors, I know there's a sucker born every day. That's just life. We all been. I can say that because I've been that sucker before.
Yeah, same.
I've been there. Both sides of it. Just full transparency. But yeah, just acknowledge it. You know what I mean? But I don't like taking advantage of people who. It's like I said, man. If I'm at a yard sale or a flea market and somebody's being cool to me, I'll give them a heads up that they might want to hold up to this book and stuff. If I'm in a comic book shop or I'm at a con, you know what I mean? Know what you got. You do this for a living. I used to tell people this is war when you go in there, man. I've got dealers in comic book shops I've gone to for years. I feel like we're friendly, but once it comes to my money, you know what I mean? And I got a deal in there. My whole collection, the 98% of my collection is all secondhand, 17 cents to $1 to $5. You know what I mean? That's how I've done this hobby, so know what you got,
No, I agree completely.
Yeah. Oh man, that was fun. I didn't know I was going to have a little fire in the furnace there on a few.
Well, I imagine when we get to that other part that it's probably going to be a little more preachy as well. But I guess so. This is just to close that topic out about the industry.
Yeah.
I know that we are doom and gloom, at least from the news. Yeah. Right. But like on the ground, do you really feel like things change? Do you feel like the month-to-month numbers are going down significantly to the point where modern comics, as we know them now, are in danger of changing? Like, do you think that we're at that point?
Well, anything that's going to live has to adapt to change. Okay, so there's going to be some kind of change. I kind of like how we're in an uncharted territory here. We're talking about distribution of the comics, not the people making the comics, not the people making the product, but the distributor, the people who make it out, get those books out, whatever they need to do and stuff, right? And it sounds like it's something that should be simple, right? But they're going to have to do something that's going to adapt for the people making the comics to get that content out, their product out. And that's where, will it be a big change? Will it be a little change? Will it just be a new company? Are we just in a period where they just need some time to adjust with having more business? We're in unpredictable, but something is definitely going to change. And that's see, I'm actually kind of excited to see what it is. You know what I mean? To see, I think more online shopping is going to happen. I think somehow they're going to have to cut out a middleman. And
that's kind of what I was going to float. Do you think
I buy online anyway from a store since 2001, 2001. I mean, I told you G-Mart Comics. I think we're going to steer more that way. Something's going to happen. I just don't know if it's going to be directly from the comic book company, or I feel like it's going to be more online shopping. It's going to be Amazon of comics at some point. I think. I don't know.
That's what I think. So I think you're going to see an increase if you're somebody independent, based off the distribution model now. I almost think crowdfunding is going to be your answer. And it's not perfect. There are stories of people getting burned on crowdfunding. It's not great. But I think if you absolutely want to put out an independent book, I think stuff is going to tend to go that way. And I think you are correct. I think at some point DC and Marvel are going to have some kind of platform where people can buy the books directly.
Yeah.
Now, what it does to the comic book stores, I don't know, and what agreements are in
Right.
place. So what that time frame is, I don't know. But if I was owning a store, that would be my number one concern. I think this is coming. So we either help come up with a new market that like supports that, where you can just go to your store, buy the books directly, and maybe you shorten that time frame from the distributor. I think that's, being from the outside in, that is the biggest frustration with comics for me is, like, oh, this cool book I'm looking at in this solicitation. Well, in 3 to 4 months, this will be great to read. Hope I'm still interested by then, but I have to put my money up now.
Yeah.
So it's basically pre-order culture to a generation of my age who are, I want instant gratification. I want my dollar to be something right. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying the reality of my generation is very instant gratification. Can you continue to market? No offense here, Tim, but the people of your generation who are like aging out to, people even older than you not being here anymore, like we have a market that is somewhat aging and dying off. How are you going to bring in new people? It's going to have to be a little more instantaneous. And I don't know how you do that. Do you make the books before and then sell them on? I don't know the answer. I'm just telling you, I think something has to change.
Well, I know what doesn't work is that what's been bringing in newer people has been the speculation part of it, thinking the collectible market. It's the 90s all over again, right? They're ignoring people of my generation. The money is still there, but you can still make a quality product that would bring people in like it brought us in when we were kids. What worked for us will work for them. A quality book, a quality story. You've already shown a few things and you're already saying, this is new, but I'm starting to fall off. Man, we used to collect things for years, okay? Justice League. That's the one where I'll say I went through my entire high school years and then some, one extra year with Keith Giffen's Justice League. All right. That was my high school book. That whole circle and stuff, right? There's people that's been collecting. I met a guy named Kev from Canada. He's collected Fantastic Four since annual number 3 came out on the stands. And if he is still alive, he is still collecting Fantastic Four until the SJW stuff hit about a couple, years ago, where he was like, this is horrible. I'm quitting a book I've been buying since the 60s. So when you drop off the fans of those characters who will buy no matter what, when you get rid of them, you're not going to bring in new people. The quality is that bad. Does that make sense? People who've been through the thick and thin of a run and stuff like that should be your litmus test to how can we pull in new people. Updating, if you're going to update a costume, at least take it seriously. You know what I mean? Like, there are stories out there with heroes and stuff to where it's not the costume that makes the hero, it's the person inside. That's what Born Again by Daredevil is all about. That stands true with all these other heroes, and we're way past all the gender swapping, the race swapping, and all that stuff for these characters. It hasn't worked. It didn't work, and that's why. It's funny how they say the generation thing. And my whole point is that it's circular. What brought us in can bring in a new audience also. I know it's got to be updated, relevant, but it still works,
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I think it's not unique to comics. I think that, obviously I play a lot of video games. I think that the drive for new and expansion that's like a capitalistic goal, right? Like you constantly want to be obtaining the new. So like the perfect example, parallel, there's a company called BioWare. EA owns them. The Dragon Age game came out. Well, they just laid off the entire writing staff.
Yeah,
because it didn't resonate with the people that they wanted to buy this game. So it's like now this it looks like the market is retracting, but is it? And I'm not trying to get political because I think that both sides of this thing it gets exhausting listening to this stuff. But there is something.
They did something stupid. They did something stupid. Look at Suicide Squad.
Oh, dude, that game should have been tailor made for me. You have this shot. I mean, like it should have been, and they blew it. I mean,
sorry, man. I'm
just roll with the comments. I saw it click up. That's why.
Yeah, most American cars are built in Mexico and Canada. Mostly what I buy now are collected editions from my youth and indie books that appeal to me. The characters are so far off from so far off from made them resonate in the first place.
I
Yeah,
think
they're
you
so far away.
from what made them,
Yeah, from what made them resonate with them and stuff. They changed the character. Yeah, they fixed what wasn't broke. You know what I mean? They threw the baby out with the bathwater to get a new audience, and the audience hasn't come. It's not there. But anyway, you know.
I think maybe that's a topic I'll delve into with you another day, because we are getting a little tight on time. But I would like to just I would like to just throw this out there as someone who came in later, and I look at the reverence that people like Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman and some of these guys get. I hear what we're saying about did they really have reverence to some of these old characters when they deconstructed a lot of this stuff, or really? And maybe it's just my ignorance. Like I wasn't there for like what you would call like that prime 80s period of comics leading into the late 80s 90s. In a lot of ways they kind of set the tone for like, let's deconstruct everything, and I just think that's a switch that's never turned off. Everybody's like, I want to deconstruct everything.
You come to the right place, sir. So first of all, I want to point out that y'all heard people say Josh will be back. We're going to turn that into a short. Second thing you're saying is that Alan Moore, Gaiman, all the way that they did everything. I can bottom line this because this is a conversation I've had many times, and I swear I think we've had it in a car ride before, so it may sound familiar, right? Okay, Alan Moore comes on Swamp Thing, right? The changes come about in two ways. Len Wein, one of the guys that created Swamp Thing, said, go, do what you want to do with the character. So he kind of gets the blessing, right? Number two, Alan Moore did the changes in story. Everything he did, okay, the reader went with him on that journey to where we went from Alec Holland being Swamp Thing to Swamp Thing is an elemental. He's a plant that thought he was a man. We were on that journey. When Captain America in issue 332 said that he serves the American dream and the people, not the government, and he stopped being Captain America and he became Cap, and we got a new Captain America, and they ended up, people missed, they switched costumes. One went black and became the U.S. agent. It's all in story. That's my whole point. We were on a 17-issue story, 18-issue story to 350 with Cap, figuring things out and seeing how that just because somebody had a costume, that doesn't make them Captain America. When Peter David turned the Hulk gray again, he went back to the original stories to explain why he was gray, not just that it was a coloring issue in the comics, but we got Joe Fixit, and he's jolted us, got our attention, and then we were on for the story of how did this happen, and look what came of that. These things used to pull us in. You could change these characters in story as long as you did it in story, not just tell people that sucked, this is what we have now, and it's a pandering thing. It makes no sense. I hated the Elektra getting the Daredevil costume because of the existence of Born Again, where we found he's already fought a guy who put on the Daredevil costume and he wasn't Daredevil. Kingpin wanted somebody to play Daredevil to ruin the Daredevil name. That we've already had these stories of why they don't work. Thus, it makes no sense why people would just put on those costumes and say they're the new guy. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. So everything that was done, it's not so much they had respect for what they were doing in the character and stuff. They were trying to put out good work, and that comes across in there. But there's little things they've acknowledged the past. They would do it in story. Marvel's biggest thing is that they give you the illusion of change on these characters. No matter what happened with Marvel, no matter used to be no matter what happened, just wait a couple of years, we'd have that character right back where they started again. All this stuff would go on. Daredevil Born Again started up again, and then by issue 301, Carl Kessel, I don't know what issue it was, but Carl Kessel came on and changed them back to a Silver Age feel. They always kind of go back. John Byrne would just take a character back to the beginning. I don't know if I'm making sense, man. There's so much I can pull from.
I think like the key to me is like when I think of like modern writers, like one of the main ones that like the industry tries to push forward is Tom King. And so like I think it might just be, maybe it's lost in translation. Maybe we just don't have as good a quality writer with that plan. I used the example with you, and you have to read this book. I'm going to let you borrow this copy. His take on Adam Strange, and like that is a character like is super interesting to me, and it's awful. I mean, like it's that book is just like this sucks. Like
if you were ever going to like doubt that we have a friendship, the fact that you're going to hand me a Tom King book, and I want to read it. Yeah, don't. Yeah, I'm proving.
I think that would be an interesting. I would like to have this topic as, and maybe we can do this as a show later. I want to just use that as like the focal piece and kind of like expand on what we're talking about, because I think there's a lot here, and we're kind of running tight on time for the other topic that you wanted to get into.
Oh, I'm good on time. I mean, it's whatever you need to do, sir. I've made that clear. But when it comes to guys like Bendis and Tom King, I think it shows in their work they didn't really read comics, and if they did, it was very casual. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think you can't have respect for something I don't know. You can't miss what you never had. When we got Marv Wolfman, Lynn Wein, Steve Englehart, and a bunch of the second generation of writers to come up after Marvel started and everything like that, they grew up on those comic books. They were Jack Kirby fanatics and nuts and loved comics, and that's where we got our Bronze Age from. I really wish we just had more writers like that who actually grew up reading comics.
What is your opinion then? And this is relevant now, I guess, but like James Gunn to me, he's taking characters that are like the Vigilante, and kind of has like made a somewhat mocking representation of that character. But then other stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think is probably my favorite Marvel project.
Yeah.
And it's because he's the focal figure. And like, if you follow him on social media, I feel like he's not just, what's the word? Performative. I feel like he's really done his homework. Like, this is what he loves. He is very knowledgeable about this stuff. Like,
his Guardians of the Galaxy stuff actually gave me the feeling of the Justice League a few times. And it's ironic that he's at DC doing this. James Gunn is one of those guys that I can't put my finger on it. I'm not a fanboy of his. It jarred me what he did with Peacemaker, for example, right? But if you read the comics, he's actually given him more of a personality. He's more of a person, even though he's got that silliness to him, right? That they can get by doing horrific stuff because they're likable, and it's ridiculous. Now, what he did to the Vigilante, bringing out that costume, and what he did to the Vigilante, I was pissed. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? Yet I kept watching Peacemaker. I can't put my finger on what it was James Gunn, what it is with James Gunn. But if you hang in there with him, it seems like it pays off. Yeah. I hate what he did to Adam Warlock. Okay, the way he did that character. But you feel like there's more of a story to tell. In the future, maybe he'll be the Jim Starlin Adam Warlock. I don't know what the hell he was doing.
I think the issue. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
But at the same time, Yondu's one of my favorite comic book characters, period, since I was probably 6 years old, and I got that Thor annual with the Guardians of the Galaxy. It was my stepdad's. Yondu was one of my favorite characters, right? And when I saw that this was not Yondu from the comics, I still was fine with it, and I can't tell you why. But what does he do? At Yondu's funeral and one other place in the movies, we got the original Guardians of the Galaxy at least acknowledged on screen. We had Martin X. You know what I mean? We had these characters pop up there. So it's kind of like James Gunn is like, I'm going to do what I want with these characters, but I'm going to acknowledge the comic here for you guys.
Right.
I don't know. He's got, I don't know how he gets by with it. You know what I mean? Like, cause I could be pretty harsh and critical. It won't be personal, but I'll be like, fuck you. I wish you didn't do that. James Gunn gets by with it, and he's pissed me off 2 or 3 times, but I've never like written him off or wanted to strangle him or nothing, But go ahead.
I think I'm anxious to see what he does with Superman based off the, again, that was the Guardians by far to me was the best Marvel property that they had.
Oh yeah, that's where I was getting at. I felt there's parts of Guardians where I felt like I was reading a Keith Giffen Justice League book. And now it's blowing my mind that that's what he's pulling from for some of his DC stuff. I'm expecting Plastic Man to show up. I really am. See what Paolo says here. I loved Creature Commandos, but there was I can't stand what they did to Frankenstein. You know what I mean?
I haven't caught up on that one, so I can't. My opinion probably wouldn't matter.
Paolo Costa. Most current writers are definitely low quality. There you go. They learn to write from watching mainstream TV, have no literary reference, nor are they knowledgeable about anything in particular. You know, yeah.
Paulo puts it very blunt. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Bendis though. Bendis can write great. So I always say it. Bendis needs to stick to crime comics or have cops involved because he put in the time. If he's telling the truth, he would ride around with cops. He would go to police stations and freak them out. He would go into a police station to do research on the city, for a script or something or whatever he did before, and he would supposedly, according to a Wizard interview somewhere, or something, or the back of one of his. I'm trying to think of the citation. It was either in the back of one of his Powers books, or I don't know, an interview somewhere in Wizard or something. But anyway, he would walk straight into the police station and be like, "Now, where can I buy the crack at around here?" You know, like they'd be like, "What the hell?" And he drove around with detectives to get to know how they spoke. So by the time I read Powers and stuff, I was like, it was like Law and Order meets superheroes. It's cool.
They put the work in. He put the work in, is what you're saying.
But then he turns around and he does these awful, god awful, forgettable book after book of all these adventure stories and stuff. And he's got the Molecule Man just being ripped in half. When he's AEW wrestling is what he is. Bendis and Tom King are AEW. And I grew up on WWE and Mid Atlantic and NWA. All right, they're AEW. All right, horrible storytelling, no character development, nothing makes sense. And then when something good happens, you know, like timeless Tony Storm coming back yelling, "Did you really think that? Did you think I had forgotten? You know, what makes you think our dance is done?" Makes no sense, but it's a cool moment. Then they fuck it up. Like you had this good moment, but you know you're not going to have another good moment for a year. Anyway, go on.
Nah, I think that pretty well. I was just curious where your thoughts were with that, because there's a lot of people who, you know, Twitter is a fun place to be, but there were people like hating on like this like 2-second clip from the Superman movie, and I'm like, I thought it looked all right. Like I don't know.
They got this weird thing about Snyder and Henry Cavill, and they feel like Henry Cavill got screwed.
Don't get me wrong, I love Henry Cavill, but
yeah. I mean, I love that. That Snyderverse was not that good if you're objective. It had good moments. I've got all the movies. I even got the Aquaman movie, the Wonder Woman movie. I got the Man of Steel movie. I got the god awful Batman versus Superman that Gal Gadot saved popping up. I've got them. You know what I mean? But I also, when I started watching Doctor Who, it was Tom Baker. When I started watching James Bond, it was Roger Moore. Right. Christopher Reeves was Superman. Oh my God, I'm going blank on Batman 66. Adam West was it Adam? What's wrong with me? I need to eat dinner. I told you an hour and a half into this, and
you said that's when I'm going to hit the wall.
I mean, yeah, you hit the wall after about an hour and a half. You start getting a little loopy around that time, right? But yeah, and I've had to go through all these changes and stuff, but they were done in story, or you knew the actor was getting old. Or you had this thing like when I watched Remington Steele when I was 10 years old, I knew Pierce Bronson would make a great James Bond. You know what I mean? And then it happened, and you find out he couldn't become James Bond because of that contract with that TV show or something. You know what I mean? But everybody had this thing where they could see an actor and be like, "That's a great." I wasn't the only one to think that. I found
right.
Out. This is pre-internet, you know. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of this stuff hasn't changed. So I don't know why people are stuck. Here's what's going on. It blows my mind, and I'm calling it now. This is what I think, because I've had to deal with some of these people on Facebook and leave some comic book groups after I owned their ass. But there is this thing where people are stuck. They are stuck in the 2000 teens. They are stuck in pre-pandemic times. I don't know how that arrested development happens to these people. And then, of course, James Gunn got in trouble for some of his Twitters. There's people that will always want to get rid of him. You know, that's psychos and stuff like that. But there are a lot of people who are stuck in, they still think it's 2016. They really do. It's weird, you know. They're out there, and I've seen them. I've had to deal with them. The great legend. Brother Tim, amen. Happy Sunday to one of my oldest online friends. Love you, Tim. Yeah, love you too there, buddy. The great legend has popped up, and he is great. And I've been watching some of your live shows there the last couple months. The legend, I've been there. So, yeah. Legend's OG, way back. We go way back. What is this? Sir Grotto Paulo, all of them Howler Mouse fans. Yep. Oh, I'm fans of theirs as well. So,
all right.
Now this was I'm throwing this one at you, man, because like you're the one that'll be like, hey, did you hear this? I'm calling you out, man. You're the one that'll be like, did you hear about this Sticky Goose video? Did you see this last one? Right. So I'm just going to hold this up. And you give us that Sticky Goose news there, brother.
So to the uninitiated who, if you don't know the YouTube drama, you're probably a lot better off in life than I am. Sticky Goose has announced, I think it was 2 days ago, that he is no longer doing YouTube. So I think the boiling point allegedly seems to be, I think he mentions in that video his whole course of YouTube. He's made something like, I think he said $17,000 over the course of his YouTube career. And he just looks at the amount of time invested. It's not worth it versus the money on the back end. I personally think that he has created enough enemies online that possibly it started to bleed over into real life. Maybe contacting his employer, that's kind of like my outside speculation. The big dust up a couple days ago, he had the Comic Savers.
Well, let's get your rhythm right. Let's slow it down there, because you got all the facts. But we've talked, and I've had the you kind of kept me up to date also, and I've checked out his last 3 videos. For me, I told you Sticky Goose, when he did his road videos, I found a couple of them. He was in some guy's house that had this immaculate collection.
Yeah.
You would just hear him talk. I don't think he'd shown his face yet, but there's just, I just raked it up. He's just a young kid. And sometimes, when you reach a certain age, that can get on your nerves, and it's nothing personal, nothing to do with him. But okay, it was cool, right? And then all of a sudden he did the drama video, the roast with his wife, where he went after a whole bunch of them. And the thing about a roast is, what I missed is that you've got to have a relationship with the people you're roasting. Yep. You know what I mean? Or have it be a charitable event where everybody's on the same page. They know they're going to get roasted.
Has to be in good spirit.
A lot of people, these people did not know they were going to get roasted. I do feel like there is certain drama in those sections and caverns of YouTube that is manufactured. I've told you behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned it out loud. I don't know. So basically he started getting a lot of ill will, and he started getting a lot of views and things like that. He's 13,000 subscribers.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm always wondering, in the comic book niche, there's been people in the past who bought subscribers and stuff, but he's got the views to back up a lot of this stuff. Okay. So I'm not accusing him of that, but I've seen people like Sticky Goose before, is what I'm trying to say, right? To get attention and stuff. There's been these Captain Cummings and these other guys before. They got a little bit of a megalomaniac feel. So then all of a sudden he gets these manufactured drama. He put on characters. He started going after channels, saying this guy got mad at me because I did something to talk about their collections. This guy said that you're poor, which is why you can't get keys. And by God, I can't get rid of this stuff. I can't, he acts like he hates the comic thing altogether. And then it happened, right? So I think, remind me how it went down. I can't remember if you were the one that sent me the link. Anyway, I got told about Sticky the day it came out. I watched some of the Sticky Goose video. I quit comics during my lunch break. You texted me the same day to let me know he quit. So I know who sent me okay. So then, just because it was you and we wanted to do this show and stuff, you mentioned it. I know you watched Sticky Goose. I watched his last 3 videos, and he had these comic capsules. Not what I'm showing, but it's not this brand, but he had a bunch of his books in these capsules, and he was sponsored by them or something.
So I don't know the exact terms. I would imagine there was some he did a video on them, I remember, and it was during his big transition. So to kind of like just highlight this for people who don't know, he really pushed CGC books in the beginning. It was like a big thing that he got in an argument with the guy at Basement Comics about, was because the guy at Basic Comics, Brandon, he doesn't do the graded books.
Yeah.
There was this transition period, which you talked about how people go from, when they first join, they're excited, the CGC thing, then they kind of transition to where he didn't like the CGC stuff, because you start to see that it's it's a lot of money. Is it really worth grading a lot of these books? So then I think the comic case was presented as like, hey, here's an alternative. I think it's something like $10 a book, and you can still remove the book. You can enjoy the book, but also protect it on a better scale than what a bag and board is going to do. So I think that's how it was presented. So whether he actually received a deal or if they sent him, there was a bunch of people who did Comic Saver videos, though. I remember it was not just Sticky Goose. And there was a lot of people that did another alternative, Gator Guard. But ultimately, within the last week or so, Sticky did that video where Comic Savers.
Here we go.
The Comic Savers. There were two videos. So the one that I think makes you mad is the wall video, more so than the video where the Comic Savers were, at least with Sticky Goose's comics, appeared to be leaching the ink from the back cover of the comics. It seems to be a legitimate, like, hey, this might be damaging my book.
See, you're being nice. You're being nice. You're telling him the place might have a point. You're being nice.
I am 100%. There's guys on the internet that I like, and then there's guys who I think do some good stuff. I like a lot of what Sticky Goose does. I think it is a lot of sensationalism, trying to get views, and like I really took issue with the basement comics video.
I'm sorry, Josh. Get to the wall. Get to
the
wall.
So anyway, the first video comes out, and I guess because he saw that ink transfer on the books where it could be damaging the books, he pulls all of them down, and where he had hung the books, it appears that there had been some kind of black substance, which he was positioning as the books transferring some kind of chemical. That's what I assume he was saying.
So, he shows the room. I watched these 3 videos. He shows the room. Okay. I know he's just a kid, but my problem is that he still seems to be 10 years more emotionally immature than he should be. Like he acts like a kid in high school more than a grown adult. That might be my problem. When you're young, you make things. But he shows the room, and it looks like he's in it looks like it's underground. I saw no windows.
It's his basement. If you watch his room tour videos, he does like down the stairwell. It looks like a basement.
I can turn around and show you my dehumidifier, and I'm not in a basement. I'm in a downstairs. When you have a basement and you're a homeowner, you have a dehumidifier. Anything. Second of all, here we go. He's a homeowner, right? Now, when he said he made $17,000 in 5 years, I can't believe I'm doing this. $17,000 in 5 years on YouTube. He goes, that's what I make in a month. So all of a sudden, we got this he comes off like a poor little rich kid whining, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, you and I talked about this, right? We're homeowners. This is the 3rd place in my lifetime that I have owned. And when you're a homeowner, things happen, okay? So in the last month, I've had the same pipe break twice where I finally had to swallow my pride in and get a plumber. And I've had this downstairs flooded that I'm sitting in. Flooded twice this month in the middle of the blizzards, you know what I mean, right? People, and then you went straight to, man, there's people in LA with the fires and things like that, right? But we're going to keep it to homeowners, right? So when you own a home, things go wrong. You replace pipes, you paint walls, you will have a leaky roof, you will have a driveway that needs to be sealed if you're lucky, you will have moles and vermin and things that you have to be proactive about. You own a house. So
defense, I'm not like
he needs to hit his walls because he's like, you don't know what it's like. You know how expensive this. I'm starting to do voices. I'm not trying not to mock him, but now he's like, this is expensive paint, man. This isn't something you just go down the road. You guys have never painted a wall in your life, and I'm just sitting here like, oh no. He's coming off like a poor little rich boy, and you cannot have any empathy for him. And then he finally did it. You guys didn't feel bad for me. I read those comments, what you said about magic erasers.
They do advertise their product to be hung on the wall. So if it is causing issues, I can see the legitimate like anger. But then he pulls the CGC books off the wall. And while it's not as bad, they also appeared to leave a little bit of the same, maybe not as severe as the Comic Savers. But I think there was a better way to do that video without.
Yeah, it gets a fucking rag. He gets a fucking rag or a magic eraser and shows us so it won't come off. He didn't do. Do you know why I have this? Because I have a home. Because I am proactive, right? I've had this on. It's like Band-Aids, one-time purchase, sir. You buy a box of Band-Aids and you will never need it again. You own a house or you have walls, you get a magic eraser. You know, one-time purchase. You know?
So anyway, the Great Sticky Goose saga for the moment appears to be over.
He's a poor little rich boy.
Now he does highlight in that video that he probably should have just quit after the Comic Tom video. Now, I will say that Comic Tom video he was eviscerated in. I mean, there's no nice way to say that. It was the cleanest destruction of anybody in a debate that I've ever watched. It was like Tom was just on another level. I mean, there was no.
I'm starting to remember shit, and it has to be where you and I have talked and stuff, right? But didn't he do the video where? I mean, I think I watched this one, or at least knew about it because I mentioned it before. The Sticky Goose effect. Did he start saying that if you talk about him? Did he do that after the Comic Tom video to try to take some heat off of him? He said there's a Sticky Goose effect where people are talking and making videos about him, and
to get
views will go up. Yeah. He comes off like he's going to try to say that he's in character. He's just a megalomaniac and he's just a kid. You know what I mean? Like he's just a kid. And I hate that he's done this to himself. You know what I mean? Like people where he lives will eventually see this stuff, you know?
Well, I think the most telling thing, and like, you know, I know that I'm coming off as like trying to defend him again.
We need a good cop and a bad cop here. You need to.
Yeah. So I think the most damning thing that he said one time was, I made a video about what I liked about comics and no one watched. So it's like, so you're kind of letting the cat out of the bag there. That, hey, when I was interested in something, no one enjoyed these videos. So if you're making it for the views, then the content he makes sense. Yeah. If he was making it because he loved comics, I think that he kind of let the cat out of the bag, that that's not what sells, which is fine. You know, what do we watch? You know, maybe 20 people, 30 people might watch our video, but now, like it's something to me and you.
Yeah. Now let me back up there, right? He has been 3 miles from me in Tazewell. I think his last comic shop video is right down here, like down here. He did the video where he was in Princeton, which is about 30 minutes from me. That's where the city my wife works, right? And then the one where you and I kind of talked about Sticky Goose the first time because I knew it was going to be oil and water hitting was the one where he went to Roanoke, which is what, an hour from
Basement Comics in
Salem. Yeah, and then he did that big one about where he pretty much got kicked out of the comic book shop and stuff, right? He got views on those. And when you travel, he's traveled. Oh, then he went to Pikeville, Kentucky to a comic con and all that stuff, right? The con stuff in those videos show up in my feed. So he's doing stuff on comics. He's going to comic book shops. He's spending gas money and time. And as he claimed he camped out in his truck or something in Pikeville and stuff, he got views for those. So the comic book stuff and the traveling and going to cons and keeping about comics, he got the views for him. They're probably more views than what he got for the drama. So he needs to change. He needs to look what's working and what's not working. The drama's not working because he started saying that YouTube killed his hobby for him, if I remember right. And he's not real knowledgeable. He's the guy that I was watching him buy books for way too much money, thinking that he was a player. You know what I'm saying? So.
And I've said I took great exception with the Basement Comics in Salem video because
I knew what was going on.
That is a friend of mine, and he has been as a comic owner. You know, his personality is a little different. He's a different guy, but he has been nothing but fair and educated me on books. He was one of the first people that I was actually able to talk to that was like, hey, stay away from some of this stuff online. These prices are exaggerated. You come here. He's always giving me good sales on books when I look them up, and he's genuinely being great to me.
I told you I sort of comic book wise, I was never his buddy, but I remember when he was at Happy's Flea Market in Roanoke before he got his shop on Williamsburg Road. Yeah.
Williamson Road, I think is what it's called. Yeah. And you know, I've been in that shop. He's got a room of $1 books. He's got a room of $2 books. If you want to fill in runs, perfect store to go to. Huge selection. If you like wrestling toys, he's got the wrestling ring in the back. He's got all the toys in the middle. He's got a whole Star Wars room dedicated. Probably one of the best organized shops that I've ever been in. Yeah. And so like to watch somebody do a video, then contrast it. I've never been to those other two shops in Roanoke.
I have.
About, yeah. They looked very chaotic. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so you're lumping his store in because you came into his store, tried to steal business from him. And because he had the same opinion about graded books that now you have on your channel, that, hey, people overspend for these graded books. I don't value that the same. The new books are not really where the value is. And so like the same things he attacked Brandon for were the same things he believes now. And like, you know, that's the one thing where I was like, you know, I enjoy Sticky Goose's stuff. I do think the roast video, to go off of what you said, it felt like he was punching down. I'm not a big fan of that. The people he was trashing, he calls them, what is it, sticker channels? Or like,
yeah, I had to ask you what that meant.
So to me, my opinion is it's small channels. Like if I were to create a Zinc Age comic sticker and like hand them out to you guys, that's what he's making fun of. It's like, this is all the influence you have is you're making your own sticker. I don't really get that criticism, but I'm not a big fan of you getting on stream with people. If you have the built-in relationship, like I feel like I could take a roast from you and I would know deep down that you're just picking on me. If someone that I've never met before makes a roast video, it's kind of cruel. It's not like, you know, the same. And I'm just being honest, like in a lot of people in our community, you know, you talk to me about growing up with comics, they weren't popular. Like in a lot of ways you were ostracized and picked on for like liking comics. I think you told me the story that the kid, I don't know if you mind me sharing it, like attacked you because you had comic books.
I think it was around 2014 or 13. There was a weekend where I had video after video of people coming at me because I was the Howlerpedia. And one guy did his video. He was going through Sam's Club or something. I think he actually worked there. And he sat there and he just fucking got me. You know, he was sitting there just talking about me. And then all of a sudden it irised out and he edited it and said, I'm not talking about anybody in particular here. And it irised out and went back into the rant. So, you know, when people pile up on you the first time is kind of weird. And I've had feminists in Australia, an Australian feminist group, come after me in 2016. They actually made it to where I couldn't stream for 3 months by flagging me. So this stuff that Sticky is going through and us just making these comments and the fact that it's just his wall, this kid has not lived. You know what I mean? Like this stuff is devastating. He doesn't know. He hasn't been in comics very long. He hasn't he hasn't been through, he just hasn't been through a lot of this stuff, right? And he's overreacting and he's coming off like a 13-year-old megalomaniac. And I feel very bad for him because he will look back and feel bad about this at some point. Because I don't think he's gone. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can do it.
I would say my inclination is I think he will be back in some form. Whether he pivots, so his other interest is Magic the Gathering, which is another community that I follow. Yeah. I think that would be a much more lucrative space if he was just looking for, if you're just looking for return on investment, that is a bigger clientele in the sense that a lot of those streamers open packs that people pay for. So it's like a self-funding content stream kind of thing, like compared to comics where there's not a lot of money to go around in this. You either like comics or you don't do comics, in my opinion.
Right.
There are guys who make money, but it's few and far between, like your Comic Toms and your guys like that.
Well, I don't know if I want to be careful how I say this because, like, I mean this very respectfully, but, like, you know, what I try to put out is I've told people before, I'm not here for, like, views and YouTube money and fame and stuff like that. This channel was big at one time and we've come and gone from that. I keep doing it because I enjoy it. And to be honest, I'm wondering if you and I would have ever even met each other if it wasn't for us being in that antique store, going through comic book boxes and you recognizing me. Would we've ever met? Have you been like one of the best friends I've ever met before? There's other perks that come from, I'm being serious. There's other perks that come from doing this YouTube thing. You get, you know, I've made a list before of what I got out of this and stuff. So that's what I'm trying to say. Comic books is such a niche market and a niche audience. And I've got very few people who have been here from the beginning over 15 years. I've got experience with this and I've seen behind the scenes stuff with bigger channels and what you have to do to maintain things and stuff. And what I can tell you is that if you try to make YouTube your full-time job and expect to make money from it, you're an idiot. You're not, you know, there's more behind the scenes you've got to do to get sponsored and actually be hired.
Well, maybe back in the day it was feasible, but definitely with like YouTube's new outbreaks, new terms, there's just no money in it. Like you have to really, there are going to be people who break that mold, but for 99% of people, this should be your hobby.
Yeah. So if you want to come on here and, you need to watch what you put out there. I mean, serious. I hate sounding like somebody's dad or grandpa now, man, but you need to think about what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Because, people are going to see it. And what are you doing it for? A few views and a few clicks and about comics. You know what I mean? There's much more interest. I've always told people, and you can do this. You can look up these baby doll videos where little kids, and I'm sure their parents are behind some of it now. But what they'll do is they'll get a camera and they'll put it in their Barbie doll house, and you'll have like little kids playing with their Barbies and stuff, telling their story and doing all this stuff. 5 million views. 5 million views for one of those. Little kids playing with Barbie dolls gets 5 million views, right? What can you hope to get with a comic book channel? 13,000 views. That to me seems to be the bubble of the audience. I mean, they go up and down, but to me, that's like, and then you have to maintain keeping 13,000 people coming back around.
Yeah.
It's whatever. So I think Sticky Goose, hopefully, whatever happens to him, I don't want him to have any ill will and stuff. I just hope he really thinks about what he's doing.
I think the Great Legend threw another comment up, like right when we started this topic.
Hey, me and Haller have seen people like him. They come and go. They don't have real passion. They just want clout. He bottom lined it. I wish I saw that first. That's it. That's
he kind of like presented your whole argument.
Buddy, that's it. That's exactly what I'm saying, Legend. Thank you. That's it. Legend knows. I mean, what I'm saying, I'm circling around it, and he just nailed it. He's seen it. He knows exactly what I'm saying. He recognizes it, Yeah.
Well, Tim, I think that's probably a good place to put the bookend on this one. I think that we got to use your props. I think we got to get that last topic out.
Here's what I think is kind of funny. When we reach points like this, and especially the last 20 minutes, I think people see what it's like to be on a road trip with me, and Josh still talks to me. So.
Well, sometimes it's easy, like to get you going because I know what the hot button stuff's going to be. So. I don't know. I don't think we've seen the last of Sticky Goose. I think it's just another video that.
He can't
and again, I got to give it to the man. Whether you hate him or love him, people watch him. Like it is something that keeps the community talking.
I don't know the kid personally. I can just go by what he's putting out there, and I just really hope he thinks about what he's doing because he'll be.
But this stuff I do think there is something to be said. Like. And maybe it's one of those things where he didn't want to do that stuff, but he has definitely typecasted his channel that way. And I wonder if he does regret that to some degree. But
it's going to be very hard for him to pivot. Just put it that way. If he comes back,
like I said, I think if he moved to Magic the Gathering content, I think that would be an easier transition than trying to come back and frame, because he does seem genuinely passionate about Magic. That's just like from some of the stuff he's talked about. And I think he probably is passionate about comics. I just think that, like having this slab wall, like how much money is on that wall if he slabbed those books himself?
He'd make more money getting if he's a dentist. I heard he was a dentist just by going to that shop up in Bluefield.
Well, I think he did the video where he talks about that.
What happened? Okay. Yeah. No. This was before it. The guy had a guy. Okay. The guy goes up into Ohio and stuff, and he'd heard that he was a dentist. So if he's really out for clout and views, making money and stuff, all he's got to do is just, ask people to sign a waiver where they put a camera in their mouth, just show their mouth, and they'll make more views cleaning people's teeth and shit.
You're probably right about that.
That's really very true. Yeah, or go full Dr. Pimple Popper.
The day in the life.
Go full way. I mean, there's other ways if he wants views and make YouTube money. That's the way to go.
I do think his trend is very emblematic of the last 4 years of comic book YouTube, where the drama really started. You had the CGC stuff, which I do think CGC is on definitely a downward. Did you see that last comment that just popped?
Oh, I'm not taking that one down, Paolo.
Yeah.
Sticky Goose can become the Nick Rakita of dentistry. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, I think CGC is like lost a lot of favor amongst actual people that do the comic book selling. I think that CGC will always have a place when it comes to like your bigger keys, but I think that they've already laid people off, increased prices. I think that their business is way down. I feel like if we actually saw it, you've had scandal after scandal. I just think that there's
I was on a show. I've told you this. I was on a show on another channel, and it turned to crickets when I said that CGC was just open to too much fraud. And everybody on there was like, oh, no, and stuff like that. 1 year later, it all hit. I knew it was coming. It was just too open. Yeah.
And I know you don't follow it, but there's a huge scandal right now where they've apparently graded a whole bunch of Pokemon cards. I think it's like the number I heard float around was like $5 million in fraud from these cards being graded, and they've been flipped around. So I don't think we've seen the last of the fraud investigation either. So
yeah, man, yeah. There's more serious things going on out there besides Sticky Goose.
So, is that going to if you put this up on the channel? Is that going to be your like little thumbnail? Is the
I don't know. Let's give a thumbs up in case it pops up. Okay, I don't know. Come on, Josh.
I want to thank everybody that came out for the stream today, and go out there just a minute, buddy. I'll be done just a second.
Yeah, we got to round.
My boys are running in on me. We kind of ran a little long. So
real life is actually coming in through the door. So guys, thanks for popping up. Everybody leave great comments for Josh to get him back. We have him on video. We are recording, so he's coming back. Everybody say goodbye. Say goodbye, Josh.
See you, everybody that jumped in. Thanks for hollering at me. If you can, follow my channel. I'm going to try to start doing actual videos too. So
say that channel name.
Zinc Age Comics.
There we go.
So hop on, he can get you that way. Sorry, guys, about the noise, but appreciate you guys. Thank you.